everyone, it's Akhil. If you don't know who I am, I'm a real estate agent in the Los Angeles area, and these videos are to document my entire journey to finding the meaning of the universe. My current mission is to accomplish your real estate goals in the most effective and efficient way possible, which got that mixed up, but you got the message. And yeah, so that's my current mission, and the mission will probably change over time. But let's get into it. So first things first. What have I been doing since the last video? In the last video, I talked about how I closed a deal. I was doing some door knocking, and some other stuff, open houses, stuff like that. So now what am I doing? Well, pretty much the exact same stuff. Anyway, so I've been door knocking, right? In two different areas. One area with Danny, that's where one of Danny's parents lives. And then one area, which is West Hills, where I closed the deal. And I'm door knocking there because, I just closed there, so yeah. And I'm working with an investor, developer investor guy. That's interesting because we already made 4 offers, three of which have already been rejected. Okay, and then I haven't been posting as much. Not doing a good job. But yeah, let's get into it. So, first things first, let's talk about the door knocking. So, I got a new lead from door knocking. Really? You got a new lead? What does that mean? Well, it means I got a lead. So, basically what happened is I was door knocking, and I door knocked on this lead in West Hills. I was door knocking by myself, and I came across this buyer. And he told me he was looking for something, and now I'm working with him. And one of the properties that we made an offer on, unfortunately, had 36 other offers because the price point that we're, going for is the most competitive price point, which is a great thing. It really shows my skills as an agent. Anyway, so as I was saying, yeah, well, it's in progress. We'll see. It's probably going to take a little while because, like I said, you got stiff competition on every single offer you put in. So the odds of you, going forward is obviously it's tough when you're competing against 30, 40 other people who are also interested in the exact same property. Obviously, one of them is going to be all cash and willing to pay multiple hundreds over asking. So it's a tough competition, but we'll figure it out. I'm sure eventually we'll get something that'll work. I'm also door knocking. I guess in technicality, these are 2 new areas that I'm door knocking in. The first one is the Donnas. That's what I'm primarily door knocking in. That's the place where Danny's parents live, and he really knows the area well because he grew up there. So when we door knocking over there, it's really nice. The price point's also significantly higher than the Valley, and yeah, it's a pretty solid spot. The only thing that's not that great about it is that there's hills. But listen, you can't have everything in life, right? So some things are give or take. But the thing is, the beauty of hills is that nobody knocks it. So you have there's a better odds of you getting somebody that's willing to speak with you. And if it's a lead, they're willing to actually. Some leads, they won't even talk to you if you door knock on their door. If it's a really door knocked area, because everybody knocks on the door, they just shut the door, or they're not even interested. They don't even answer the door. So in areas that not a lot of people are door knocking, you get better turnover, better amounts of people spoken to, stuff like that. And the second area that I'm door knocking that's new, like I said before, is West Hills, where I closed the other transaction. Like the name suggests, it's pretty hilly, so unfortunately, I have to walk up and down quite a bit to knock on those doors. One thing is that I'll say about the door knocking is we've gotten quite a few leads, I would say, tons of leads, but it takes a while to convert, right? It takes a long while. But I do consider there is progress, and that's what's important. It's not about you don't want to see the goal isn't to instantly see results. The goal is to see progress, right? One thing leads to the next. How are we improving? I'm tracking the metrics still, of course. Obviously, I can see that we're getting tons of leads, but not a lot of turnover in terms of closings. 0 closings. But again, it's a long-term thing. The thing is, my door knocking has gone down in terms of the amount of output. Currently, with Danny, I'm only able to hit 65, 75 doors in 3 hours instead of 100. That's 1, because of the hills. 2, because I think we're just normally slower as 2 people instead of 1, which is not a problem, and we have better conversations, which end up taking longer. That's why the average is lower with Danny. When it comes to being by myself, why my average is taking longer, again, when I'm door knocking in West Hills, it's just hilly. So if I spend 3 hours, I get 75 doors instead of spending 3 hours and getting 100 in a flat area. And I'm not able to spend as much time because I'm about to get into it, but I'm working with some some other clients that just, it takes up a lot of time, specifically, especially for investors and developers, which I'll get into. It takes a lot of time, and it's a very time-intensive thing. But I do feel like in the long term, there's money to be made and experience to be gained. So, yeah, that's I think most of what's going on with door knocking. And also, in terms of like flyers, the flyers are pretty much going to be similar to, it's the same home repair flyers. The script has pretty much been the same. I would say the only thing that's changed is like I'm kind of slightly reducing door knocking. So, yeah. All right, so we'll get into the developers and investors subject. Wahaha. All right, so I think I'll preface this one with a little bit of a background. So after I was continually door knocking, I think I went over this in the last video, how I was, starting to question how great door knocking is as a lead generation vehicle. And I started to question, okay, look, based on the hit rates that I'm currently getting, if I expand this out in time, I'm not sure how much I'll get out of it. I've currently probably spent, north of 370 hours, and that's just pure knocking time. Me starting knocking and ending knocking. That's not considering the time that it took me to drive to the place. That's not considering the amount of time I've used to spend in creating flyers, printing out the flyers, getting metrics, studying the comps in the area, following up with leads, doing all of that ulterior stuff, making my door knocking metrics. Everything outside of that is not included in that. Obviously, if you include all that, I think it has to be at least double the time, including just driving time, making everything at least, I would say, 500 hours. But if we're counting just purely knocking time, it's 370 hours. It's more, but it's about, I'll just put it at 370. We'll just round down. So 370 hours of door knocking time, right? From that, I haven't gotten any leads. Correct? Correct. So obviously from there, I was thinking, okay, is this really, worth it? I've been doing it for almost 8 months now, 8-9 months, maybe a little longer. I think maybe 10 months. I'm not sure. Somewhere 8 to 10 months somewhere now. And I've been doing it for a while. I haven't seen any real results. I've been doing pretty consistently. I've been doing quite a bit of volume. I have improved a lot, but I still haven't seen anything. I've seen leads and I've seen a little bit of progress, but no closings yet. As of right now, I've seen offers because that one person that I met door knocking is making offers, which I consider pretty much, that's progression to the nth degree. Basically, that's pretty close to, if they're making offers, then we're close to getting something done. So but even if you include all that. Right? If I take my open house time, for example, I've closed a lease from open house, I've closed a sale from open house, and I've gotten tons of leads from open house that I continue following up with that I feel like in the future may close. I can't really necessarily say the same thing for door knocking, but potentially, down the line, I feel like if you take all the leads that I got from open houses, and you take all the leads that I got from door knocking, it'll pretty much even out to being the same, even though one I spent way more time with. I spent a lot more time with the door knocking, but I get basically the same amount of leads as I did from the open houses. So I've spent about 140 hours in open houses compared to the 370 pure door knocking. Pure open houses is about 140. Obviously, again, that's not including driving time, prep time, printing time, putting out the signs, doing all that, just the hours of the open house period. And in total, I've gotten tons of leads, but I can't really measure because when I enter it in as how many leads I got, a lot of those leads end up never responding, blocking me. So it really can't, I can only measure off the top of my head because I don't have if there's no way for me to really track each lead, right? Because the only thing I can really track is closings. I can't really individually track, so if I have like 40 leads, for example, from 5 open houses or 10 open houses, those may all be leads, but 50% of them end up, blocking me, 50%, or then another 10% end up, they already used another agent or something, they were already working with an agent, another 10% are just neighbors who I thought were leads but are not, and it'd be crazy time wasting to actually track individually all of this. So just off the top of my head, I can basically say, okay, based on the amount of door knocking leads that I have, based on the amount of open house leads I have, I feel like they're pretty similar. One I spent 1/3 of the time, one I spent, obviously three times the time. And in terms of headspace, door knocking was like my major headspace because I've been thinking about it so much. I've been doing it so much, and I'm obviously I've done so much knocking at this point that it's like it's insane. So I've door knocked. I think I was saying like 10,000 doors, probably more. I'll get the number right now. Yeah, I've door knocked like 10,000, more than 10,000 doors. I think I'm at like 10,000. It's like 890 plus like 970, so 9,700. Plus like 800-700, so yeah, well over 10,000. And basically, out of this, I've done a ton of volume on this, ton of volume of open houses. I've done many open houses. So yeah, basically, what can I say after that is basically just looking at the hard metrics. One is closing, one is not. Is it just the lead generation? Is it what I'm not doing? I'm always trying to improve, trying to change things. I always iterate on every single thing. Open houses, door knocking. So I'm just really trying to figure out, okay, what is the most efficient thing I can do with my time in order to get the most leads, in order to get the most sales, right? I'm not against door knocking. I'm not against doing anything. But yeah, so during one of these, that gets me to the point. Okay, all of that was to say, that gets me to the point. So during an open house I was holding, I met a client or an investor, developer person, or as a representative of a development company, and basically they explained to me, that they do development, they build properties, they renovate properties, and basically they flip properties, they build new construction properties, and also they do like sometimes on occasion they'll do multifamily properties. So basically mainly just development and flipping. Okay, and their primary source is flipping. They don't do as much development. And they said, basically what they told me is, listen, if you bring us deals, whether they're on the market, off the market, whatever, you bring us deals, we get it at the price. If you make offers at the price we want, we get it at the price we want, right? The price that makes sense for us. Okay, you'll get the listing on the back end, and you'll get obviously the buy side on this end. So it's up to you. If you can find the deals, we'll use you. It's all good. You just send it over to us. If you can get it at the price that we want, we'll tell you the number for that house, and that's your deal. And I thought that was an interesting perspective. I wasn't too keen on the idea at the start. I was like, okay, well, that's great. Developers are developers, so I'll just treat it like any normal lead. I'll start sending them properties. Like, what do I do with every other buyer? Right? I have a pretty simple synopsis. Right? The second the person comes in the door, I welcome them in. I talk to them, build some rapport, explain the house, show them the house. After they walk around the property, whatever property it is, whether it's a tear down, whether it's the nicest property, the most renovated, brand new construction. I explain the benefits of the property, why it's a great opportunity, why there's nothing like it on the market, and of course, I explain that to them. They go take a look around. After that, I start to talk to them. They, at that point, once they're essentially done with the tour of their own self-guided tour of the property, at that point you have nothing to lose. So you can just start asking questions about them, if they already have an agent, what the situation is, blah blah blah, what do they need, if you can help them in any way. So of course, in the ideal scenario, I ask them, hey, how are you, blah blah, what are you guys looking for, how can I help, is there something specifically on the market that you're looking for, off the market that you're looking for, and just getting a better idea so that I can therefore help them in the best way possible. So a normal lead, if the ideal lead would come in the door, I explain the property, they'd take a tour, and then I would speak to them, get their number, get their contact information. That's the first most important thing. The first thing I do when they walk in the door is ask them to sign in. And then after that, I say, hey, can I text you right now a link to some of the similar properties in the area? Or can I text you right now some similar properties that might fit your needs if this is not the right one? Or whatever, right? I always try to sell the house, and if it's not the right fit, then I say, okay, can I just text you or email you some similar properties that may work? And in the ideal scenario, they say yes. I get their contact information, their true contact information, or they just tell me to email or text whatever number they wrote down, which I'll do. And I'll text you right then and there. If it's not a crazy busy open house, I'll text them right then and there all of the properties that could work, that are on the open house, that are relevant to them, right there in the open house. And then what I'll do is the next following day in the morning, I'll follow up with them, say, did you guys like any of the properties, blah 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 blah. And obviously that's the ideal lead, and then you go from there, and hopefully the thing winds at some point to a sale. So in this situation, right, I send them the properties, and they're like, this one might be interesting. So I set up some showings, we show the properties, okay, this is the price, this one is not going to work, blah blah, we're too far off. And then basically we went out from there, right? And I really started to think about it. I was like, okay, development is not easy. Development is an interesting idea. Like working with developers, working with investors, because they don't feel any emotionality towards a property, right? Sometimes when you're working with normal clients, there's nothing wrong. There's positive and negatives to both. I'll just explain the positives of a developer. So the first thing is, obviously, I would say emotional stability, right? If you're talking to a developer, it's all about the money. At the end of the day, okay, does this property make sense to us? Can we make money off of it? If we're going to flip it in XYZ amount of months, what are our holding costs for each month? Blah, 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 blah. How can we make a profit for our investors? Blah, blah, blah. It's very simple. They don't care about, oh, this house looks nice, this house doesn't look nice. Sometimes when you're working with buyers, you can have a perfect house, right? You find them the perfect house that everything fits, but for whatever reason, they just don't like it, or they just don't feel like it's the right one, or sometimes they like it initially, they want to do it, they're really interested. and then boom, everything just snaps, and they get diverted to something else, and like all of that work was essentially wasted, and you got to move to the next thing. And it's kind of like sometimes it just fluctuates, right? Because when you're going on people's likes and needs, sometimes, most of the time, I would say, people don't even know what they really want, right? They think they want something, and then they start looking for that thing, and then that doesn't end up what they want, and well, if you go from where they start to where they end, they're in totally different. They're looking for something totally different at the end, and they end up closing on something totally different, which is what always happens. But with a developer, it's very simple, right? Does it make sense on paper? If it does, this is the house. That's great. Thank you so much. If it doesn't, that's it. It's very simple. It's just straight to the point, right? And I like that part. But the second part of it is that's one positive of working with developers. Second positive is they're ready, right? They're ready. They're pre-approved, obviously. Or if they're using a loan product, they're pre-approved, or it's all cash, or it's all ready. All the funds are ready. Everything's ready. If they have a deal, they can make an offer instantly. There's no hesitation. They're not going to be like, well, I'm not sure if I really like it. Is this really the one for me? It's not like that. It's like, okay, this makes sense on paper. Let's make an offer at this price. Let's see how it goes. That type of situation. It's very simple, straight to the point. No back and forth. It's just very like, okay, if it makes sense, it makes sense. Some of the downsides are, obviously, when you're working with developers, they're looking for properties that they can make a profit on. Unfortunately, if there is properties that they think they can make money on, the entire world, there's also like tons of other developers out there that also want to make money, so they're also going to be interested in it. So most of the time, what happens is if it's on the market, which is why it's off-market deals or off-markets. I'll go into this later, but if it's on the market, everybody can see it, which means everybody's comping it out for themselves. Everybody's also looking at that deal. So if you're going to make an offer at a price, there's obviously most of the time going to be other people also offering at that price that you're offering at. So there's sometimes competition at that level of margins, if that makes sense. And a lot of the times the sellers are not motivated to sell to people who are trying to get a deal. That's also a negative. So let's just say in this situation, this is exactly what's going on. I send them properties, they tell me the price for each of the ones that we've already seen, that they like, that in terms of that actually makes sense on paper, right? It makes sense to them, they have a margin. And when they make an offer, obviously, it's significantly lower than, it's going to be lower than asking at a price that makes sense to them, right? At a price that makes sense on paper for them, that they can make a profit. Which also means, right, it's going to be very hard to convince a seller who listed at a certain price. Most of the time, these have been on market for a little while, right? It's sometimes really hard. Most of the time, it's going to be hard to convince that seller to go down in price. It's going to be a lot of back and forth. And for right now, right, we put in 4 offers now. 3 of them are obviously already rejected. Three of the properties, right, are already rejected because the seller, for one of them, the seller just wasn't even interested at all. They didn't even want that lower price. For another one, they were negotiating. Nope, they don't want it. For another one, they already had a higher offer, so they don't want it. So it's just like that type of thing. It's going to be very hard to get it accepted, right? There's a lot of work. So what I was thinking is, it's a lot of work for, in terms of, it's a lot of work, but the amount of offers that you make to the amount of closings that you have is obviously going to be lower, right? So my assumption was this: each offer, right, on average, takes about 3 to 4 hours of work, maximum of 4, minimum of 3, right? So the main time frame, the reason it takes so long is this, okay? For each offer I make, right, on average, it takes me multiple hours of searching on the MLS, finding and comping out. So when I find let's just say a property that could work, I also go in and I have to, prove why it. So let's just say, let's go take a really far step back. Okay, how do you find deals on the MLS? What does that mean to find a deal? What is a deal even? What does that mean? Right. So specifically, the people that I'm working with, they like to come into a property. This is their bread and butter. This is their ideal. They come into a property, right? Let's just say priced at 600 to 500, 600 square foot. So it's very, very old, needs a ton of work, right? And obviously, depending on the area, let's just say we're talking about the areas that they're looking at. 500, 600 square foot, right? Renovated comparables in the area comps, renovated comps in the area, like similar properties, are selling for anywhere between 1,100 and 1,200 a square foot, or at least 1,000 per square foot. Somewhere between 1,000 to 1,200 a square foot. That's what their ideal is. They want to make at least 400 to 600 per square foot. That's their goal, right? That's the discrepancy that needs to be there, right? And you may think, oh, that's almost double the price. They don't want that much. They want that much? No. But what it is when you're a developer, you have tons of costs, right? When you buy the property, you have to pay agents, you have to pay tons of fees, you have to pay title fees, you have to pay so many different fees. And then you have holding costs because you have to pay property taxes, and you have to pay all kinds of things just to hold the property, and you have to pay the cost to actually repair the property. And then after that, you have to pay your investors who invested into it a return. Okay, and then after that, you have to pay the employees who work for you. And then after that, during that process, you also have to pay real estate agents because on the back end, you have to list that property. So you have to pay real estate agents again, and you have to go through an entire escrow process. And then finally, after all those fees, costs, paying back people, then whatever you're left with is profit for yourself. So it's not like they're making tons of money. It's like, okay, there's a slim margin. They need to make sure that when they come in at a price, they get the price that they want. They get the deal. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. They would never want to be in a position where they risk investors' money. They would never want to be in a position where they don't make money. They just did 9 months of work for no reason, right? Nobody wants to be in that position. So that's why they have this very rigorous process. But let's take a very far step back. How do you find a deal in the MLS? So I searched through the MLS. Obviously, I look for older properties, brand new properties. That isn't like older properties in the sense ones that have been on the market for longer, ones that have been on the market that are just new. I look through everything, right? Everything that comes up. If it looks like it could need work, renovation, potential development, and then I go through and I pick those properties and I have a list, right? However many properties I just saw in whatever little area. Okay, I just saw 5 properties that could work. Now I go through and I comp each one of them out. So what that means is I check that property, right? And I check what are the sales in that area if this property was fully renovated, right? If this property was fully renovated to a very nice degree, what would they sell for? And if there's a big enough discrepancy, then I show them then I send them the property with all the comparables, and I do that again for all of the properties. So you can imagine this probably doesn't. It's not like I can just walk in and then just 5 minutes later have 50 properties to send them, right? It's something where it takes a couple hours to get a list of 10 properties that could actually work, right? It's like I spend a couple hours, I get a list of 10, 15 properties. Sometimes I look through 50, 60, 70 properties, but unfortunately, none of them comp out because it's just how it is. Sometimes they're priced high, and sometimes there's no margin in that area, or whatever it is, right? There's always little things going on. So then I send them those properties. They pick the ones they like out of those, the ones that actually make sense to them on paper, what they're good at, what they've done in the past. They have their own process and they vet those. And then based on that, they take those properties that they like from the list. Maybe it's like if I send them a list of 15, they like 2 or 3, then we go see them, right? Make sure in person that the numbers make sense. There's not any, they actually notice in person, oh shit, the foundation's screwed up. There's no way you do anything with this property. So then that's obviously going to be out, right? And then they go through, they make sure those properties are good. Then we put offers on those properties. So you can kind of see how it's kind of a long process. And obviously, once you put an offer on the property, it doesn't mean you're going to obviously close, right? You have to pay multiple. Currently, like I just said, we already have 4 offers, and 3 of them are already rejected, and they don't even want to. They don't want to continue negotiating, right? Those three offers are rejected. They're not willing to talk to us now. If they stay on the market, we may be able to revisit them, right? Maybe a few months down the line, they're like, okay, we've been on market for a while. We don't have very good offers. Maybe we'll revisit it, see if we can, pick back up where we left off, type of thing. But anyway, aside from that, currently, what I'm thinking is the amount of offers in order to get a closing is probably 20, right? My assumption is if I made 20 offers, one of them has to be accepted, right? Sometimes, especially with developers, right, or investors, flippers, whatever, they go into a property during the inspections. It gets accepted, but during the inspections, they realize this property's not going to work because of whatever XYZ reason. Okay, we realize that the plumbing is totally terrible. It needs a total replacement. This is going to be too big of a cost. We can't do that. We realize the foundation it's crap. Through an inspection, we realize everything is crap. So we can't do this. As in, there's many, it's not just getting accepted offer. It's also going through the inspections, making sure everything works out there, and then making sure everything's all good there. And then after that, and the escrow, obviously the rest of the escrow period, and then you can close. So mainly it's finding the right property that doesn't have so many repairs that doesn't make sense, like major repairs, right? Because you don't want to have to, the flipper is not going to, what they want to do is, the ideal goal for a flipper is to come in, look at the property, fix up everything, make it look really nice, right? Nothing major needs to be changed, but just everything on the surface level looks really nice. Then they flip it and make the profit so they can pay back their investors and take some for themselves as profit. That is the goal, obviously, of a developer, flipper, investor, whatever. So, as you can imagine, I think my assumption is, obviously, I don't know because I don't have any data yet, but I'm tracking it. My assumption is if I make 20 offers, one of them will get accepted, right? And I think it's worth it in the sense. So for each hour I spend, like I said, 3 to 4 hours per deal. If I spend 50, if I get 50 offers written, right? I think it would be unreasonable if I have 50 offers written that I don't get a closing. If I have 50 offers that I write, I think it's unreasonable that one of them doesn't close out of the 50 that I wrote offers for with these investors. That's why. Then the reason I'm willing to do that is because I want to test it, right? Obviously, developers, I'll just say this on the record. Not all developers are, very trustworthy in the sense that they may say one thing and then do one thing else, right? So in terms of like me getting the listing on the back end for the same deal, you never really know, right? Obviously, I trust them in terms of like I trust the fact I trust people's word. I take people's word for it. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to a business, businesses make business decisions, and that does not have anything to do with trust or feelings. That's just like, okay, it doesn't make sense to list with this person anymore because of X, Y, Z. We're not going to do it. Bye. And there's not much I can do about that because I just have to accept that that's just what business is, right? But in terms of if I get the listing on the back end, right? If it's a really good listing, right? The best listings in the entire world, or the best places to pick up clients in the entire world, are from listings that are renovated in nice areas at good price points, right? That's like if you can hold an open house on a renovated listing that people like, you have an endless supply of clients, because people in that area will see you, like people who are like in that community, they see you representing that house. So they'll be like, oh, this is a listing agent who's representing it. So they'll be more inclined to use you if you door knock that area and tell them about it. They'll be more, if they're interested in selling, they'll be more likely to use you because you have visual representation that they're representing one of the nicest properties in the area. Okay. On top of that, all the best buyers come to those open houses because they the best buyers are ones who have money, are looking for something that's findable, and are ready to buy. And those are the type of buyers that come to those open houses because it's renovated and it's at a price point that most people are ready to buy it. So in a general sense, those are the places you get the best buyers, best sellers, and it's the best place to brand yourself because in a general sense, it's obviously nice to brand yourself with renovated properties. Branding yourself with teardowns is a cool tool, but in a general sense, most people are more receptive to renovated properties. So, enough rambling. Let's get to the point. The point of the matter is, I think if I spend 50, if I write 50 offers, which is 50 times 4, which is 200 hours, if I put 200 hours into this, I feel like the output will be greater than if I put 200 hours into door knocking. That was all to say. So, I just have to test that theory. So I have to put 200 hours into this, and let's see if it is, if it is better than door knocking. And if it is better than door knocking, then unfortunately, I'm going to have to say no to door knocking anymore. But until then, I'm going to just have to do both, right? It's going to be reduced volume on door knocking, and unfortunately, it's also technically going to be reduced volume on development deal searching. So what I'm going to do is do both, because technically speaking, the door knocking is still not a bad thing, and I can't say for sure if it's good or bad or good or whatever. So I'm going to do that, and during the off periods of time, I'm going to try to search for deals, right? Find those deals. I actually kind of like searching for them, to be frank. It's kind of like a pretty fun thing to do. I don't know, it's nice, it's fun. It's fun to see, it's fun to search the market. It's fun to just you feel like a tech wizard. You feel like you go on there, and then after you spend like 2 hours just searching, you got these 10 deals. You feel like you went through, you feel like you went through the entire haystack and you found a few needles. Or you feel like you went through the sand of the beach and you just searched the entire beach and you're like, wow, I got 5 coins. That was probably a terrible analogy, but you think you get the point. So, it feels cool to like search and find these things, these little deals. So yeah, on to the next subject. So the next thing I want to talk about is that I've reduced my posting. Yes, I messed up. Well, I didn't really mess up, but at the end of the day, like I said, something's got to give in terms of like time-wise. And obviously, in the future, I think maybe social media, if you have a big following, could potentially give you clients. I don't really believe it, as in like, I don't know. I don't feel like direct social media, because like for me, I fundamentally believe this industry is about connections and relationships. I don't personally believe that you have a great, social media is not a great relationship builder. Social media is a great branding tool. So, but I fundamentally believe in this business, you don't need to brand yourself as much as you just need to know people. Like if you just know all the people who, if you know everybody in the flats, you're gonna get listings. That's just how it is. It doesn't matter if you, but if you brand yourself, you send 1,000 mailers, you're on every single social media post that they see. If you're on every Instagram post, every TikTok advertisement is you in the flats. I still don't think it would be as good as if you just knew everyone there. It's a lot easier said than done, but I'm just saying I don't think this business is really. It's not. It's less to do with branding and more to do with just relationships and more to do with trust. So I feel like that's the case. Anyway, aside from that, I just want to. I feel like. Oh, and also a secondary thing that I did related to development, which has not panned out, is so I was looking on YouTube, obviously, because YouTube is a good source of information, as we all know. I was looking on YouTube just to see how people find deals for developers. And the most prime, optimal, beautiful deal for a developer is an off-market deal. So, as I was saying before, I'd get into this. What is an off-market deal? An off-market deal is somebody who wants to sell, but they don't want to sell it on market. They would like to sell it off the market. Why they would like to do that? There could be many reasons. Maybe they don't want their neighbors seeing. Maybe they just want to be conspicuous. They're a spy. I don't know. They just feel like selling it off market. How am I supposed to know? I don't really know. It's not really that beneficial for a seller to sell off market because the more eyes you have in your property, the more likelihood that somebody's going to like it and somebody's going to want to make an offer. So in a general sense, selling off market is kind of counterintuitive. Like if you want to sell, you better just put that shit on market, and you're going to get a lot more offers out of putting it on market than trying to sell it off market. But there are reasons for some people. So yeah, in terms of what a developer likes, why do they like to be off market? Because there's no competition, right? If you have an off market person who's trying to sell, right, they have no ballpark of what other people are thinking about their property, if another person would offer higher for their property, or what the situation is. They're just dealing with you directly, right? It's a tunnel. It's a tunnel. You're dealing with them in a tunnel. So in a vacuum, you're dealing with them in a vacuum. So obviously developers like that because they can get great deals out of it. If you buy something off market, the seller may not know that he could have gotten $200,000 over what you're offering, but you're offering it, and the seller's like, okay, sure, and they take it, but unknowingly. So that's why developers like off-market deals a lot. They like people who are selling off-market that they can get deals from. So why can I not get off-market deals? Why do I have to search the market and try to find these on-market deals when I could just get off-market ones and be all good? Well, it's a lot easier said than done, because how do you find off-market deals? How do you find people that are not looking to sell on the market, right? How do you find people in that vacuum? So, well, when I was on YouTube, one guy was saying, if you contact the city will give you a list of development projects that are approved but have not started construction yet, right? So why would that be useful? Well, that would be useful because if they have not started construction yet but they're approved, they may have gotten into financial turmoil, or they may have too many projects they're dealing with and they're not able to start it, so they want to sell it off. Basically, their assets or their products or their properties that they want to get rid of it, but they still have it in their books and they just probably don't have time or they don't have the funds or whatever. So they want to get rid of it, right? And if you can find those, right, and you contact that list, I'm sure many of those people would want to get rid of their property. And I have a developer who would like to buy that type of property. Maybe it's called an RTI, so they're ready to invest or ready to issue permits, right? The permits are ready to issue, where it's everything is approved. Somebody can just immediately start construction, but for whatever reason they can't because of maybe they're in financial turmoil. They don't have enough funds to start the construction, even though everything is ready for the last year, and they got all the permits and everything is ready. They just can't start, right? And if they can't start, but my developers can, and they would love to start, they'd love to make that profit, then we have a deal right there, right? Buyer and seller. So I did contact the city. This happened about a week and a half ago. I emailed them. I called them. It's kind of funny because the entire city directory, they have all their emails on the database. Like if you could look it up online, you could find the LA City planning department, Department of Building Works. You can find all their emails, the entire team. So what I did is I went through and I just emailed the entire Department of Public Works team. I'm like, this is going to get done now. If I email 24 people in 24 different, all different roles in the same department, I'm sure one of them will figure it out. It's kind of funny. And they're like, please do not email all of us at once. This is only this only is supposed to go to one of these emails. So yeah, either way, whatever. And then basically told me that I needed to pay some fee so that they can run the thing. And that happened a week ago. And obviously when you're working with the government, and they're slow as shit, so it's taken forever, and they still haven't given me anything. So unfortunately, no list for me, no soup for you. Uh, yeah. So I'm still waiting for this list. The guy. Oh, so yeah, the guy from that interview. He was like a real estate agent who was working with developers. I called him up. He's another agent. I think he's San Francisco or something area. So I called him up, which was, and then I called him up and I tried to get some advice from him. I was like, hey, so I contacted the city, blah blah blah. They didn't, and I was just talking to him about that, and he was saying what you should do is you go in person to the office, to their office, and then you should ask them there. And that'll probably be better than like emailing them, because if you email them, they have like no incentive to respond. If you're there in person, at least you get a better idea of if they have that information, because every single department is different, and unfortunately, when you're dealing with there's like two different departments. There's like LA City, and then there's LA County. And then I was talking to the county one, and they referred me to the city one, and the city one referred me to a different department that was actually part of the county. It was weird. So if I go in person, I think it might be better, but I just have to figure out if I want to go to like the county office, city office, or whatever. I had to figure that out. I haven't gotten time to do it yet. It's not that I haven't gotten time, it's that I haven't prioritized it. I haven't prioritized it yet, but I probably will, and I think it might be interesting. I'll probably also ask Title if they have any way to get off-market, off-market sellers, or off-market teardowns, or off-market approved RTI projects. So, I'll figure that out. I think that was kind of interesting that, yeah, I mean, I feel like when you're dealing with the city, they have no incentive to, it's considered like public records information, but they have no real incentive to give it to you, even if you pay them, obviously, which I did. It wasn't a bribe, it was like, it was an invoice and everything that they sent out. Yeah, but I don't know, I guess like some fee that they charge for accessing public records. But yeah, even when you pay them, they don't respond. So what do you want me to do? I just got to figure it out, I guess. So that's that. The next best way to get off-market deals was the first ever method that I used when I was door knocking was I used a letterhead, which isn't up here, but I used a letterhead that my team lead wrote. And that was actually, to date, the most successful letterhead, or the most successful type of flyer. I got the most amount of calls from that flyer. So basically, all of the improvisation and improvements that I've done are basically useless, as you could tell. But no, that was the most useful and converting flyer. But unfortunately, what it was is I never ended up using it too much, because basically what it was we have a buyer who's really interested in your area, and would you guys consider an like an offer or something like that? And then that was the one I got the most calls from. But it doesn't really work if you, obviously, you're not going to use that if you don't have any buyers. I mean, you could lie, but that's like, I kind of think that's messed up. I don't like to lie to people. So, I haven't used it other than that one time, because at that time we did have a buyer in that area. So, I mean, in technicality, I always have buyers for teardowns. So I could use it, and I do actually have a developer now that's looking for teardowns. But the thing is, the only problem is that I noticed even at that time is that teardowns, flip properties are they're all far and few between. So like, if you're on a neighborhood, you have 15 properties in a line, right? This one will be a teardown. Maybe the one all the way over here will be like, a little bit of flip. And then, you'll have 2 properties for every 15 properties. So you have to like drive, you can't like walk it, because that would take way too long. So you have to drive here, and knock on the door, leave the flyer, and then drive 5 minutes over here, knock on the door, leave the flyer, and then go around, knock on the door. It's kind of tedious, and you get through a lot of land really fast. And if you're only looking for teardowns, then or flips, that's how it's going to be, I guess. But yeah, and a lot of people who respond are unfortunately quite unreasonable. They're like, oh yeah, well the house is worth like 1.5, and they're like, yeah, we'll consider an offer at 2.5. Like, dude, the hell? Renovated properties aren't even going for 2.5. How the hell are you gonna get 2.5? What? It doesn't even make any sense. So sometimes you get that. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, that's just how it is. So while it was the most successful, I guess I could start implementing that again. But again, it's tedious, and then I have to drive from property to property to property, or I have to just like walk. So I feel like, I don't know, maybe I could do it again. I guess I'm considering it now. But yeah, that's one way to get off market deals. Yeah, I guess I'll just reach out to Title and ask if they have any ideas. But yeah, that's, I guess I'm thinking out loud now. So yeah, And in terms of open houses, I held open houses for the past couple weeks. They were all right. I'm not holding one this week since I've been kind of backed up on stuff. Just with all those offer writing takes kind of a little while. So not only did I have those 4 offers, I also, like I said, was making offers for that other one, the property that had 36 offers. And then I was also doing, there's also like, I'm supposed to have a lease listing coming up, which is like a lease listing in Echo Park, or somewhere around there, Silver Lake, Echo Park area. But that hasn't been signed, so yeah. Anyway, so as I was saying, on to the next topic. We went over door knocking, we went over developers, and we went over the fact that I totally stopped posting. Well, I didn't stop, but I reduced it significantly. So now, going forward from here, what is next? Well, going forward from here, I would like to increase the amount of time I spend in developer property search, deal search. And one thing I did notice actually about this, I'm going to go into the subject all over again. It's about to be another 15-minute long rant. But one thing I did notice about this, finding these properties, is that when I am looking for deals, I've learned like quite a bit about areas, right, neighborhoods in the Los Angeles area. I've learned a lot about prices in each neighborhood. I've learned a lot about which areas are considered like, which areas are higher priced and like nicer areas, which areas are lower priced, which areas are clearly like, they've been up and coming for the last few years. When you start to comp out like properties here, and you're just like looking at numbers all day about properties here, properties here, properties here, properties here, you start to get an idea like, okay, so that's what this is worth, this is what that is worth, okay, this is what property over here is worth, okay, no, okay, makes sense. And you start to get like an idea, like, okay, if you go to a certain area over here, you go south of this, you go north of this, it starts, like, for example, if you go like north of the 101, properties start in the valley. If you go north of the 101, property prices start going down. If you're south of it, properties are higher. If you're south of Ventura, properties are even higher. It's just like, you learn more about the market. So even if I don't get any offers accepted, even if I write 50 offers and not a single one gets accepted, closed, nothing, I get nothing out of it, at least I'll get all this experience of just like running through the numbers hundreds of thousands of times. Because for every offer that I end up writing, I probably sent out like 25 properties. So, like, for every offer that I end up writing, I comped out. Basically what I'm saying is like 25 properties. I ran through 25 separate properties of comps, or probably 20 to 25, with comps, with everything. And yeah, that's why I'm saying it's 3 to 4 hours of work for each one, because, it also includes all the ones that never worked out. But yeah, I think it's worth it because I've learned quite a bit. And when you're writing so many offers, you also get to talk to a lot of agents. You get to like really understand, okay, this is what questions I should be asking. This is how I should gather more information. This is what I could do. And yeah, I guess it's kind of nice, it's kind of nice. So yeah, even if I go through all this and I get nothing out of it in terms of monetary compensation, I'll still get a ton of knowledge. So I think it'll definitely be worth it. That's the plan now. Unfortunately, as much as I love door knocking, it's going to need to reduce volume. Probably at this point, I literally only do it with Danny. I rarely ever knock. This week I didn't even get to door knock by myself in West Hills because I was running around too much, and I was only door knocking with Danny. But just progressively over the last few weeks, it has gone from like door knocking with Danny, and then after door knocking with Danny, I door knock by myself for a little bit in that area, and then it's gotten less of that. Only door knocking with Danny when I'm with Danny, and then on separate days I door knock by myself. And then now it's gone to I never door knock by myself, and I only door knock when I'm with Danny over there. Because I just like, okay, now the 2.5 hours that we just door knocked is done. I gotta go. I gotta do the XYZ thing. Boom, 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 boom. I gotta comp this. I gotta find out some deals for this. I gotta do this. I gotta write this thing. I gotta do this. It's like, sometimes I think it's just a lack of not lack, but I think it's just like a different set of priorities now. But yeah, I'm gonna end up, obviously if I increase the amount of deals I'm finding, by definition, I'm reducing the amount of door knocking I'm doing, right? Like this week I only door knocked, I think 2 or 3 times now. 2. Today I'm not door knocking because I'm filming the video. I'm going to go through and find some more leads. I'm just going to, I need to find those leads. This is like the engine of the business right here. All right, my thought process is, okay, this is my honest thought process. Like I said, 15-minute rant. Honest thought process on this is that if I continue to do this, right, and if I can find deals for one person, it doesn't matter whether this developer doesn't end up, it doesn't matter who I'm working with, right? If I can find deals and provide value in that way, right? If I can genuinely, like, okay, I can comp out the market. I have a great understanding of what prices are where. Okay, I have a great understanding of what is a deal where. I have a great understanding of what to do when I see a deal. I have a great understanding, because, you know, the biggest ambiguity as an agent is just not understanding what prices are. Because fundamentally, if you understand where everything is supposed to sell, what everything is supposed to do, you understand the market, right? You understand what areas are very desirable, what price points are very desirable, right? What you should be looking for in a property, what makes properties more desirable, right? At that point, you're providing tremendous value, right? Because if I can walk into a property and say, okay, this is what you should change for this area to get the most bang for your buck. That is tremendous value, right? If you invest $500 into doing, or 500, if you invest $5,000 into doing X, Y, Z, if you invest $50,000 into doing X, Y, Z, your returns when you sell it will be a lot higher. If I can do that, that's obviously providing tremendous amounts of value. Tremendous amounts of value. That's what it's providing, tons of value. So, whether or not, like I said, I get money out of this or not, I think working with developers, the experience is very helpful. What I learned from 10,000 Doors of Door Knocking is I learned how to conversate better with people. I learned how to, I learned how to be more confident in, now I kind of sound stupid, but anyway, yeah, I learned a lot from door knocking, right? Being more confident with the pitch, understand what words to use at the right time, understand what people are actually, like when they say, when a person says something, right, how you should respond back, right? I think I've gone over this multiple times, but I learned a lot while door knocking. I really did, really did. I feel like I can also learn a lot while working with developers. So yeah. And by the way, as a side note, a lot of development companies do work that way, in where if you find them deals, whether off market, on market, whatever, if you give them the deals on the backside, once they renovate it and or build it or whatever, they will let you list the property. So, yeah. And I think, in the future, if I want listings, right, the best way to get listings is to list houses. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Anyway, so, as I was saying, the best way to get listings is to list houses. Anyway, all right, I think that's enough. We went over developers, door knocking, and me not posting. On to the next, and hopefully next time I talk to you, I have 4,000 listings. Remember, everyone, the best way to get listings is to list houses. Bye.